So everyone, warm welcome from my side as well. I'm happy to be here. I think it's fantastic to see so many different flavors of risk management. I think what we've seen today is certainly risk management as a journey. Even if you think you're done, you start to realize you're not. There's actually so much more out there. So in this morning, I was just scribbling down lots of notes for inspiration to take home to my team. I think they're not happy that I'm coming back tomorrow with some more ideas. And second, it's cross-functional in nature. So this is not a game to be won alone. You have to reach out left and right, top, bottom, to make sure to learn from the past, implement in the present, and also prepare then for a more resilient future. So that being said, let me give you today the flavor of transport risk management, because while I'm responsible for supply chain risk management and sustainability, the focus is because I'm at Schaeffler in the supply chain management department. We started out with transport risk management, and the plan was then to gradually from there also extended end to end. I also have my colleague Marius Klaus with me from purchasing, who joined in September, who's my counterpart on purchasing for supplier risk management. But for now, the next 30 minutes, the focus will be on transport risk management, and I'm trying to show you and give some more evidence how this even is very cross-functional, which I didn't think 3 years before when we started this journey. So it will be an experience report, but before we start with 4 examples that I brought with me that we fought with in the last 3 years, let me briefly introduce Schaeffler to you in case you don't know the company yet. So Schaeffler identifies as the motion technology company. What is it that we do? We manufacture, we develop and manufacture high precision components and systems for drivetrain, chassis, any bearing and rolling solutions. So essentially we make things move. In the slides afterwards, I'll show you the product suite that we have, and you will see that probably the chances are 100% that also you have been moved or are being moved by a Schaeffler product. Just some numbers. So 24, I believe, Marius, we purchased or we acquired Vitesco. 24 it was, right? 2 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun. And we acquired them to grow to one of the largest family-owned businesses, certainly in the automotive and industrial sector, with now around about 120,000 employees. Apologies, this is the 23 numbers. I didn't get, for some reason, the new slide deck from our corporate slide deck. We have lots of location, many countries. So you can read from this, it's a massive company. And relating this to transportation management, we have a global scope. We have a global reach in every corner of the world. We have some freight, some containers, some pallets going on, and that is what my team is responsible for. Anything where Schaeffler is paying freight for, and that's a 3-digit million number that we are responsible for. And we're doing this with 4 risky ladies, we call ourselves lovingly. So this is the full product suite of Schaeffler. You see that from 2-wheelers over truck, heavy equipment, train, planes, industrial, 4.0 windmill energy sector, everything's there. So I hope I didn't promise too much by saying that chances are high that even you have been moved by a Schaeffler product. Hopefully not only physically, but also maybe emotionally. I think what we've been doing at Schaeffler the last 3-4 years with this growth trajectory is quite remarkable. So, but that of course raises the expectations to us with transport risk management to make sure all these components, raw materials that go into our products actually will make it on time to our plants, to our customers, you name it. So, I would like to go about and share our risk management journey on the next slide, and really the emphasis on journey. Why did I choose this one here? Because you could say it's an uphill battle. No, not like that, but it's the effort that I would like to focus on. It's really not a marathon. It's an ultra marathon on the mountains. So you really have to be prepared to also have personal resilience, because life happens while you're making plans, aka when the supply chain is disrupted. So your roadmap is gone for a moment and you have to really focus on getting things done, right? So on the next slide, I would like to share with you a rough timeline of where we departed with transport risk management. So in 2019, is when we first implemented the technology that helped us to at least get visibility, what's going out on there in the world. That was a project that was driven together with purchasing, so SCM and purchasing, where we collectively looked for, we made the specifications, fixed the requirements, and then went scouted for a tool. We happened to work with Everstream, also represented here by Ulf Fenne in the room. That was nice. But then the real fun started in 23, so about 3 years ago, when our corporate supply chain risk management team was founded, because by that time people realized, okay, a tool is great, sorry Ulf, but you need to have people understand the tool and make it align with your processes and also with the people that need to work with it. And the example I can give you, I was confronted with, I had 0 transport management knowledge and 0 risk management knowledge the moment we took over. We had the person who acquired the tool and of course a network. And the first thing we did is we decided we're going to centrally take over responsibility for using this tool to identify risks and then actually make something out of it. Because beforehand, the alerting went all over the place. That was Schaeffler fault because we designed it like this in the end. So all the alerts went to all the plant representatives, driving people nuts. And like, go away with this thing, it's not going to work. So that was the first decision we bravely took with 0 knowledge on transport and risk management. So we're 24/7 basically engaging ourselves to build a community, focusing on the people, really make sure there's awareness for risk, there's a culture instigated for risk. And at the same time, we were working on a process which starts with identification of risks, using the tool, trying to assess, okay, is this box of rice that's dropping in China now interesting for us, or do we actually have something where we're disrupted? And then third, design the effective response mitigation strategies to it. Learn from that, similar to what we heard from Francesca, evaluate, and then do it all again, repeat. The next phase, then I was great in 23. Then the next phase was then in 24. The focus was really on digitalization and automation of our risk routine. So by then we not only had Everstream with very good filtering settings, notifications, reducing the noise, but we also had actually developed the Power BI tool. So Power BI I can only recommend. It's super easy to do. It's accessible for everyone. Everyone understands it. And we built a tool that would enable us to, within split seconds, and I don't exaggerate, within seconds, for bigger cases, maybe 5 minutes, we're able to identify if a certain risk or an incident we found on Everstream is impacting our shipments, and if yes, how many, when, and how big the disruption is going to be, based on the shipment data that we collect and we integrate in our Power BI dashboard. We also then made sure that we have oversight into our actual vessels on the oceans. So we build a module. That's the second picture. I mean, small and round table. I can dive deep if you want to. So we made sure that we have visibility for all the vessels on the oceans carrying our Schaeffler goods by building Ocean Watch. So at any moment in time, we know if the trajectory of a storm is going to hit our vessels and what this means for the transit time of ships and vessels. And we also automated the risk routine. We don't have to write emails to our stakeholders if they're impacted. We have a SharePoint which is carrying our global risk register, where we can just type in the mask all the different fields, what's the risk type, severity, who's impacted, who needs to know. We push a button and then automatically an email is sent out and all the responses are getting back there. So we can really monitor and track the cases in one stop. In 25, we actually in the beginning, around this time, 1 year ago, we earned the Ernst & Young Risk Transformation Award in the category of resilience for the approach that we built within 2.5 years. And we focused on training awareness together with purchasing, that the entire operations world knows what their role is in risk management. And we also made sure that our risk management procedure that we established in the handbook was also trained and available. Now, what is the focus today? We are now ready and have reached a certain degree of maturity that we are now able to focus on the financial value add of the activities that we're doing. That means that we're looking back into different cases and have 4 cases with me and review them against what is the added value from a financial point of view, because the CFO doesn't care about risk management. He's like, okay, what did you actually save in terms of cash? What cash flow did you free? Which logistics costs did you avoid? And yada yada. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So we are embarking on that journey right now, and there's 4 elements of value add for the business I'll focus on today. First, starting with logistics costs. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you see risks beforehand, as we search from ZF, for instance, you can mitigate them by avoiding that air freight, because you can find different responses to that, and therefore also lower the logistics costs. Or you can negotiate different rates, taking a different route. You're ahead of the curve. You're not last in line, but first in line, and maybe you still get that good rates. Second, inventory. So what does inventory have to do with reliable risk management? Well, if our organization knows they can rely on us identifying as much of the risk ahead of time, they can trust us and lower the inventory levels. They don't have to build in, I don't know, 10%, 15% of safety stock, but they can really keep lean. And that is, of course, freeing cash flow right there, and not hurting our plans. Then next one, working capital. Goods in transit, often forgotten, but that is of course also important. If we know about certain risks hitting our transport supply chains, and we have to, I don't know, go around Cape Hope like we had with the Suez Canal, at least, I mean, there will be an increase in working capital, but it's controlled. You can forecast it, and you can also tell to the board, listen, for this period of time, we know that there will be an increase in goods in transit, but then we'll probably bounce back to normal. And this is, of course, something they need for financial reporting purposes, you name it. Last but not least, I'm also the head of sustainability for transportation. The better of a job we do in recognizing certain disruptions where flying is involved, we can also reduce the CO2 emissions and therefore also contribute to Schaeffler climate targets. So those 4 ones I'm focusing on. Let's start with the first example. That was in 23. So in March, when we started to really understand our risk management tool, we started to see patterns coming in, or alerts on water levels in Panama Canal. And then we did some research on that, because it was like for 2 months or so we had observed that, and it's somebody, what's going on? What does it even mean for us? Super greenhorn-like. And then we did some research and find out by Statista that the water levels, if they reach a certain threshold, the bigger ships cannot go through anymore, or that because of the pumps left and right getting the water from the lakes into it, it's just not sufficient water, so you have to also lower the amount of vessels that can go through it. What does that mean in transport management risk? Well, longer lead times, waiting times. There's also additional fees involved, because you have to pay extra fees for passages. We recognized that rather early, and you see that the, or maybe not, I can tell you that the all-time low was hit somewhere in June, July-ish, but somewhere in April we already, I had informed my boss and made him a proposal, hey, how about we leave the Panama Canal for the most important shipments that we have, to really make sure we reduce the risk of lead time increases, air freight cost, and safety stock that needs to be built up. Said and done. So I was at the executive committee meeting presenting the business. It was a business case we presented, also checking out the different routing via not through Panama Canal and then up the east coast of the United States, but actually into LA. And we shortened the lead times by 12 days and then did overland transportation. From a sustainability point of view, that was not ideal because there was trucking involved, but one death you actually have to die, as we say in German. And here the risk of avoiding air freight costs was actually then that was bigger than actually moving slightly to slightly higher increased CO2 levels. So what was proactive about it? We monitored the water levels using intel from our risk management provider. Risk intel provider. We made sure that we would inform the board, get approval for the business case that we had, and we would actually really have an early decision so that the run towards the other port was not so big. We could get a foot in the door. And we could then set up the alternative route. And I mentioned it was air freight costs, CO2 saved. We could also have shorter lead times, and overall net savings were accrued from that, taking together the inventory, goods in transit, and logistics costs. About 1 million savings were generated with that switch, which is not small, not the biggest, but also quite good. That was the first trust earner. Second example, blockage of Red Sea Suez Canal. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not the Ever Given that we had from Susan, but it's kind of Ever Given reloaded 4.0 almost. So what happened here is, of course, the escalation of the Israel-Hamas conflict, 7th of October, unfortunately, 2023. And as a result, the conflict spread also to the Bab al-Mandab Straits and the Suez Canal passage. So how did we go about here? Well, the consequence was that ships were routed then through the south of Africa. That meant an additional 10 to 14 days estimated additional lead time. Then there were, of course, available rail routes from China through Russia, through the Caspian Sea, which is the middle corridor, into Europe. So what did we do that was proactive here? First of all, 7th of October, when the Hamas attacks happened. 10th of October, I was sitting, not literally, but metaphorically speaking, on the lap of our 3 divisional SM leads. And I told them, listen, guys, it was 3 guys at that time, this is what happened. And we made an assessment of what would happen in case the conflict would spread to Suez Canal, for whatever reason, because we had the Ever Given in our mind. They were like, okay, so how likely is this to happen? I'm like, right now, let's just pretend it's plausible. It can happen. I cannot tell you when. I need Francesca's glass bowl for that. But suppose it's going to happen. What are you going to do? Are you going to be naked in supply or what? And then I got the answer. One had to fly everything. One had like stock for 10 days, and the other was 14 days. Fine, it's okay. So quite some variance in the impact, I would say. And then I asked them, so do you want me to do something about this? We could already ship some stuff and reroute it in case you have hot items. No, it's not going to happen. So it's fine. I noted this down. And the moment that the first rocket hit a vessel, I was on the phone like, you have to fly everything. Right now, you have to give me a list of items that, I think it was in December was the first rocket, and in January or February we would have started to air freight stuff. So I asked already in December, I think 19th it was, for a list of hot items that I would put on the next plane to reduce air freight costs, to get that capacity allocation and make really sure that we cover that 14 days of period where supply would be naked and when you're running out. What we also did is we aligned with our logistics service providers to get good rates, to get also an estimate how long this thing is taking. Well, the rest is history. We still have that problem, and we have CMA en masse slowly returning to the Suez Canal. We continuously monitored. And another option we did actually to reduce air freights, we used the rail option, which was around about 35 days door-to-door back then. But then we also had in October 24, I believe, toughened sanctions around Russia. And then, of course, the northern route was blocked. We went to the middle corridor, and at some point we abandoned that because it was winter weathers on the Caspian Sea. So through continuous monitoring, we could always see, okay, in the next month, this is going to happen. This is probably going to be congested. And at some point, we left altogether rail and moved everything to ocean. So beginning, we had ocean, air, rail, and now we're fully back to ocean because it's a stable line that's running. So what's the value add from a financial point of view? I was actually reporting to the board every month extra costs, so I could forecast additional logistics costs. In this case, we could not avoid the extra costs, but at least we could forecast. We could transparently say, hey, this is the case. Our purchasing guys, they could negotiate better rates because it's always tit for tat in here because the big carriers know the next tender is coming and they want to have a good starting position in those things. And of course, we could have the lead times in check because we knew at every single time for air, for rail, for ocean, what is the expected lead time and what does this mean for our safety stock levels? Do we have to do something about them or not? In the end, we actually did not increase stock levels too much. I think for a few weeks we went to 5 days of safety time increase, but then we took it out because our division saw, hey, this is working. Transport risk management is on top of it. We can trust them. We can go ahead like this. And just heads up, this is something that I already presented, I think, a year ago. And then already I put this McKinsey article in here warning that if Suez Canal is reopening, everything's not nice and fluffy again, because there's going to be huge ripple effects. And we're right now in the middle of it. My team and transport operations and purchasing logistics started already in December to prepare for that. So we're very in good shape. We have test containers, so we know exactly what the situation is like. And as I speak, my team is preparing slides for board communication to tell them, hey, it's safe to go back. This is the business case. Give us a go and we can go ahead. So you can see that this is a very long case, 23 up till now. Let's see, knock on wood, how long this is going to last still. 2 more examples, extreme weather. I mean, we all know that the oceans are warming up, and as a consequence of that, we have heavier and more frequent storms, hurricanes, tropical cyclones, in particular the east coast of the United States and the Gulf of Mexico, not Americas. And then we have down there the Southeast Asia corner with more tropical cyclones, tsunamis, typhoons, you name it. So what do you do with this? I mean, it's like Christmas. You always know storm season is coming, especially if you're in the United States, and you always, surprise, what do we do? So what we did in 24, we did some learning. We actually recognized this pattern, and we had some firefighting in 23 to do. And then we actually went to our experts from Everstream. We listened carefully to their weather frogs, as we call them lovingly, about their weather outlook for the year 24. And we also had them look into a weather calendar that we had developed, where we noted down for which month is which region impacted by floods, typhoons, hurricanes. We let them validate that calendar to us, and then with this information, we went to our LSPs and asked them, so we have our Ocean Watch with all the different vessels. We showed them, so your ship right now is here. First of all, they looked like, what? How do you know? Okay, fine. Then we asked them, what is your captain going to do if they have the storm trajectory? I mean, you see it's cutting right through the trajectory. And it's like, yeah, well, they're slowing down. They're slow steaming or fast steaming, or they take a small detour. What does this mean in transit time additional? Roughly 2 or 3 days. So with this recommendation, I mean, we triangulated that here and there. And with this information, we went back to our supply chain management divisional leads and suggested to them, gentlemen, we have here a weather calendar, and we suggest for this and this time, this and this period of the year, to add safety a buffer like this and this in the transit time. Said and done, we implemented this. And I couldn't believe it myself. In the year 24, we didn't have one single firefighting incident because of hurricanes or tropical cyclones. Nada. We were reporting to the board because suppliers, and of course you cannot move suppliers away from somewhere. We had that, and we always like 0 issues. That was amazing. We even called up the master planners and the plants to really ask, hey, can this be? Did you? No, we had other stuff, but not that. So that actually worked, and it was a very small investment from us using data, expert, and just some collaboration with our supply chain divisional leads. So again, proactive, I think you can see from yourself what is proactive about that. And then the value add is, of course, that we have very controlled working capital increase and transit time increases. Not just panic mode, 5 days just because, but really targetedly. And we're actually, next week I have a meeting to look again into the data from our risk alerts and see if we have to adjust. Maybe add a month or take away transit times. Let's see. Last example, not sure who heard of this one of you guys. In October 24, there was a strike by the US East Coast Port Worker Association, ILA, International Longshoremen's Association. And it was a threat of 30,000 port workers along the entire US East Coast going on strike, except Charleston, because Charleston at that point in time was the only non-unionized port. So keep that in mind, because there's a funny twist to the story. Yeah. So what was proactive about this one? Well, first of all, we heard of this strike in March. So that was like almost half a year before the strike originated, actually from our internal sources. And then we triangulated with the information from our Risk Intel platform. Nice. So we thought, like, it's fine. Port of Charleston is our 90% volume port, so let's shift all the remaining volumes there. So I go on paternity leave for two months. I come back and can remember the horror in the eyes of the person of my team who told me, Nadine, I have to tell you something. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm good. I was all happy. Yeah. So in the meantime, Port of Charleston unionized. So our plan is gone. So that was in July, I think, or August I came back. And then we had to come up with a different measure. And the measure looked like this, that we would assess what's the impact. We knew, right? Because we had almost all our volume in Charleston. So we then basically ask our divisional leads, listen, this is the impact. It could take 1 day. It could never happen. It could take 10 days. We don't know, but it might happen. Same thing like with Hamas. I'm like, how likely is this? I learned from that occasion already. Like, we don't know. I mean, they're negotiating. We'll keep you up to date. And we're like, yeah, nah, not going to happen. So like, fine, it's okay. So think about the Hamas attack, what happened afterwards, but it's fine, your decision. Noted this down. And then we approach 1st of October, strike. 3 days strike, and then they start to get in panic mode. Fortunately, everyone was warned beforehand, so we had our plans move production schedules a bit so they could internally fix it. But then the strike was called off. But after the strike is before the strike, because they said it's only a pause. We're negotiating until January 25. So we did the same exercise again. So they're negotiating, gentlemen, do you want us to do something? Yeah, please reroute. Because they learned from the first time that maybe they shouldn't trust that it wouldn't be happening, right? So I'm sure that at ZF you also have experiences from stakeholders learning from certain things and then maybe thinking twice if you should do something about it or not. So in the end, then we reevaluated different routes. We had a backup plan. We actually went into Canada, Montreal, and Halifax, and into Mexico. And in fact, we ended up with lower logistics costs than regular. So that was great. We avoided the air freight. We earned some more trust. That's the qualitative value add from the stakeholders. And that was really helping for preparing for any future crisis that we have, because they know we're not, raising hell because, we're risk management, but we're really dedicatedly only coming with stuff that really matters from their point of view. So these were 4 examples I brought with me. I have one final slide, perfectly on time. Concluding advice for leveraging proactive risk mitigation. And that is not only for transport risk management, but for any supply chain related risk management. You really have to make sure that you understand how you create value. So you need to know your spot. In our case, I have a mandate to do transport risk management. So everything that's falling under that, I'm looking into. So I know our supply chain coverage. I do make sure that I define clearly the scope of influence I have, because this is really important. If shit hits the fan, you need to know what is your responsibility, what is not, and who is responsible for it from a governance point of view. And you need to really make sure you excel in that own sphere of influence to gain that trust, to then eventually reach for the stars and do the next thing regarding supply chain risk management. Second, you need to know who you create that value for. In our case, it was our divisions. We have by now 4 of them. The SCM leads are my counterparts. They're my internal customer. So I collect from them what is your risk tolerance or risk appetite, as Susan said this morning. And I look particularly into that one. We really try to understand their pain points, and we also try to align our organization, roadmap, and strategy to that, because they are basically paying us in the central function. They're making the profit and loss. Last but not least, you have to make that value add visible and known to everyone. Do good and talk about it. It's not about bragging about it, but you can confidently share. If you know you nailed something, you know you have information that's of value, you need to write it down somewhere. You need to make it public. You need to engage people that they understand this. Particularly in quiet times. We heard this thing of no Hollywood crisis or something. Exactly. So crisis management or risk management is most of the time not Hollywood. It's just hard, persistent, disciplined work. And I think with these 3 advices, that's a good starting point to engage in risk management of any type. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm happy to engage in the roundtable.